Viking history needs to be updated. It's found that the origins of Scandinavians are from Southern Europe and Asian DNA. Archaeologists concluded the world's largest ever DNA sequencing of Viking skeletons, and it reveals the process of fearsome Scandinavian warriors were not all Scandinavian after all. This groundbreaking research was led by experts in the UK. It exposed the diverse genetic background of the Vikings. Archaeologists analyzed more than 400 Viking skeletons from excavations across Europe and Greenland using cutting-edge technology. The findings published today, September 16, in the journal Nature magazine, also shatter preconceived notions about who the Vikings were and what they looked like. The 6-year study was led by researchers at St. John's College, University of Cambridge, under the guidance of Professor Eske Willerslev, director of the Lundbeck Foundation Geogenetic Center, University of Copenhagen. And he said, "We have this image of well-connected Viking mixing with each other, trading and going on raiding parties to fight kings across Europe because this is what we see on television and we read in books. But genetically, we've shown for the first time this was not that kind of a world." This study changes the perception of who a Viking actually was. No one could have predicted these significant gene flows into Scandinavia from Southern Europe, and Asia happened before and during the Viking Age. The word Viking derives from the Scandinavian word meaning vikingr, meaning pirate. Now, the Viking Age typically refers to a period of Norse activity between the years 800 AD and 1050s AD, just before the Norman conquest of England. And during this time, the Vikings shaped the course of history, raiding, pillaging their way across Europe, and even reaching America 500 years before Christopher Columbus did. Yet the understanding of the Vikings as proud warriors, traders, and raiders of Scandinavia heritage was wrong all along. Professor Willerslev's study, The Genetic History of Vikings, was influenced by genes from Asia and Southern Europe before the dawn of the Viking Age. Even more surprisingly, the study found many Vikings had brown hair and not blonde hair. Professor Willerslev said, "We did not know genetically what they actually looked like until now. We found genetic differences between different Viking populations of Scandinavia, which shows Viking groups in the region were far more isolated than previously believed. Our research even debunks the modern image of Vikings with blonde hair, as many had brown hair and were influenced by genetic influx from the outside of Scandinavia." The researchers sequenced the DNA of 422 Viking age men, women, children, and babies. DNA samples were collected from teeth and bones uncovered in Viking cemeteries across Europe, and these countries include the UK, Poland, Ukraine, Scandinavia, and Russia. One sample was collected in Estonia, where 4 Viking brothers had died on the same day. Other skeletons were recovered from Orkney, Scotland, where despite having no genetic link, the bodies were buried in Viking fashion. The discovery suggests the Orkney locals adopted the Viking way of life, further expanding the scope of who the Vikings were. And according to researchers, Vikings from what is modern-day Norway traveled to Scotland, Ireland, Iceland, and Greenland, and the Vikings from modern-day Denmark made their way to England, and Vikings from what is today Sweden found themselves in the Baltic states. Dr. Ashit Maragrian, first author and assistant professor, University of Copenhagen, said, "We carried out the largest ever DNA analysis of Viking remains to explore how they fit into the genetic picture of ancient Europeans before the Viking Age. The results were startling, and some answer long-standing historic questions and confirm previous assumptions that lacked evidence. We discovered that a Viking raiding party expedition included close family members, as we discovered 4 brothers in one boat burial in Estonia who died the same day. The rest of the occupants of the boat were genetically similar, suggested that they all likely came from a small town or village somewhere in Sweden." Professor Martin Sikora, lead author of the paper from the University of Copenhagen, said, "We found that Vikings weren't just Scandinavians in their genetic ancestry, as we analyzed genetic influences in their DNA from Southern Europe and Asia, which have never been contemplated before. Many Vikings have high levels of non-Scandinavian ancestry, both within and outside Scandinavia, which suggest ongoing gene flow across Europe. The experts also determined the genetic legacy of the Vikings living lives on the UK, with up to 6% of the population still having Viking DNA in their genes. For comparison, the population of Sweden is estimated to have about 10% of Viking DNA. And Professor Wilslev said, the results change the perception of who a Viking actually was. The history books will need to be updated. Now, this is not a surprise for us. After all, a couple of months back, I did post a video concerning the fact that ancient Spartans had set up colonies in Britain and Scotland and even Scandinavia. And Denmark is actually an offshoot of Dan, meaning Dan, the tribe of Dan. We know that the ancient Spartans were of the tribe of Dan. And there's a Greek saying, beware of the Danites who bear gifts. The saying in English is beware of Greeks bearing gifts, but actually in the Greek saying is beware of Danites bearing gifts, because the Spartans, the ancient Greeks, were actually Danites from Argos, from the Peloponnese, at the time of the Trojan War. And they were the ones who gave the Trojan horse to the Trojans in order to invade the city that they were trying to bring down for decades. So they were settling, and they set up colonies even in Scotland and Scandinavia, and they were also trading everywhere in the Mediterranean up to the British Isles, and even through Scotland, Iceland, Greenland, and then into the North America, Canada. They even found ancient Minoan DNA in the ancient Indians, and the native Indians of North America. There was also in the 1850s a professor of one of the East Coast early colonies of the East Coast writing letters to the chiefs of the native Indians in ancient Greek. And he wrote to them in ancient Greek, in the ancient Greek alphabet, saying, I'm writing to you in your native language so that you can all understand what I'm saying. Be careful, because the Western invaders will try and change your culture. And he called them aderfiamu, meaning my brothers, and he was writing to them in Greek. So what is all this? I've already updated videos on that. And this is, of course, now again confirmed by Southern European and Asia Minor Asian DNA in the Scandinavian DNA sequence. So that's just really wonderful to find out. Leave your comments, please. And this is on Express UK by Sebastian Ketley. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.